Well, we are live here on the very first Hangout with me. I'm Jason Wethington. Hope everybody is doing great out in uh, Google Hangout land. Oop, let's see what's going on there. Oh, I don't want to hear myself. So I think I'm going to shut that down. Yep. I can hear myself. No bueno there. Okay. I think that's what I need, and this is what I need. All right, looks like not anyone is here, but we've started. So this hangout is basically the first of its kind. I've decided each week I want to host a hangout and talk a little bit about performance, talk about magic in general, and we might move these to be private sessions so that we can talk a little bit more about technique, a little bit more about magic secrets. But this hangout, I really just wanted to focus on a little bit of performing, answer any questions once people join us, and yeah, so it looks like we're getting a few people joining in now, which is awesome. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Jason Wethington. If you're just joining us, this is the very first Google Hangout. I'm going to be talking a little bit about performing. We're just getting started, so I think we'll wait just a few minutes for everybody to show up. But let's see. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Today, really what I want to talk about is, like I said, performing magic. My background is I've been a professional performer for about 20 years and just started coaching online other magicians. I've been doing some directing. I've directed a few shows. I've performed. Oh, no, really? I didn't know that. I shouldn't be muted. Nope. There's no audio still. No audio still. Shouldn't be. Can you hear me now? It looks like my microphone is working, but I could be wrong. My microphone is. It looks like it's working. I don't know. Maybe it could be. Yes, it could be just you. Great. Okay, so let me check one more thing just to make sure this is all. No voice. I don't know. It might be on your end. It might be on your end. So I don't know if you guys can hear me. Oh, okay, great, perfect. We're having a little issue there with my audio, but welcome. Hopefully now we're sorted out. So welcome to the very first Google Hangout. I was just introducing myself. My name is Jason Wethington. If you're just joining us, I have been a professional magician for a little over 20 years. Worked in all sorts of different venues, and I wanted to start these weekly hangouts and talk about. Great, my friend is sending me messages that he can hear me, which is awesome. Great. Perfect. I'm just going to respond back. Perfect. Awesome. Yes. So there's no real structure to this. I'm just, I want to do this weekly, and each week I want to get better at doing this. I want to bring a little bit of my experience to the magic community and maybe even performers at large. My friend and I have started a website called the versatileperformer.com. And the idea behind that website is really to bring a variety of performing arts together to help performers, regardless of what genre you're in. Like I spent most of my career as a professional magician, but in all the events and all the venues that I worked in, I got to hang out with dancers and singers, musicians, jugglers, hula hoop artists, um, cigar rollers, like any type of performance art that you could think of. I got to hang out with these people and ask them questions, and sitting in the green rooms and just talking in between shows, you get to learn a lot. So I thought it would be great to take all of those years of experience and bring it to you guys through the versatileperformer.com. We're going to be doing a lot of really cool stuff. So go over to the versatileperformer.com and check it out. We're going to be hosting more webinars. This is going to be a weekly thing. We're going to be hosting courses. We're going to be teaching sleight of hand, all kinds of cool stuff over there. So make sure you sign up for our blog. It's going to be a lot of fun. So tonight, I think really the thing I wanted to focus on was that for about 10 years, I performed at Walt Disney World. And while I was at Walt Disney World, I got to create not only my own shows, but eventually I got to work with the entertainment group and create experiences for guests in all of the different parks. So it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot about developing our characters. And that's really what I wanted to talk to you guys tonight about. This whole webinar is just going to be about character development. So I put together a little slide, and I think I will go ahead and do that now. I'm going to present this. I'm going to exit full screen though. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to do I think I'm just going to do it like this. I'm going to do the entire screen, and then I'm going to present this. So hopefully you guys can see what makes great performers different. And really, that's a question that when I first started, this question, I wouldn't say that it haunted me, but I definitely saw performers on TV. I grew up watching magicians like Doug Henning and David Copperfield and even Lance Burton. And I saw those guys on TV, and I thought, what makes them any different than me? And what I discovered through my years of performing, like, and here's a couple of shots of me. This is me performing at some restaurants. This is how I got my start, was walking table to table, performing at restaurants, developing rapport with people, one-on-one, close. Like here you see there's 4 people who seem to be having a good time. That probably is because of the alcohol on the table there. Then eventually I got to develop my own theater shows, and I really took what I was learning and started developing bigger and bigger shows. This was a show that I did with a Curiosidades team down in the Dominican Republic. It was a lot of fun. This was in the El Jaragua Hotel. This is one of the larger showrooms on the island. We got to do some shows in. And this is me at Walt Disney World. I'm the guy in the bowler hat in the middle. I played a British character. So I got to really learn from all of these guys, and each one of us had different characters. We were handpicked by Disney to be there because our characters supported one another. So learning about characters and learning about what creates a really strong character and what connects with an audience was something that I learned a lot about, and I picked up a lot of. This was me doing some TV work. My friend Clara is there. In the picture, she's on my left. She would be to your right, and then the 2 hosts of the TV show there. I did over 40 international television appearances during, let's say, a 5-year span. I got to do a lot of TV plus hundreds of domestic television programs. So I've had a lot of work in many different areas. So with all that experience, the lesson that I learned that was most important, and that what makes a magician different, isn't the tricks or the effects that we perform. And although those are really important, they're not the most important thing. Lots of people perform the same magic tricks. I mean, we see magicians all the time on TV, and we go to the boards the next day, and everybody's saying, "Oh, that old trick," or "I can't believe that they did that on TV." But the thing is that most of what we call the lay public, right, people that aren't magicians, have never seen and will never seen. I think a few years ago I read a statistic that something like 90%, maybe more, maybe a little bit less, you know how statistics are, but like something around the neighborhood of like 90% of all people will never, ever, ever see a live magician, ever. They won't see one, and not even really on TV. They might get a glimpse. I mean, magic is getting more and more popular on TV, which is really awesome. I'm really excited about that. But it's not the tricks or the effects that they remember. What people really remember is the strong character. And that's what connects to the audience. So that's really what I wanted to talk a little bit about how do you develop a strong character? Where does that come from? For me, when I first got called to do the audition at Walt Disney World, the venue was very specific. It was going to be in the UK pavilion in their Epcot resort. And the magician that was there before, John Armstrong, some of you guys might know him. He's out at the Magic Castle right now, does a lot of lecturing. He's a really good friend of mine. I took over for John, and John had a British character, and the management, the entertainment management, really wanted a strong British character. In fact, they didn't want to hire another American because the weakest part, and kind of calling out John a little bit here, but the weakest part of John's act was the fact that he didn't have a strong British accent. So hold on just a second. I got a message. Can't see the images she's saying. Okay. Well, hopefully, I don't know how to fix that. I'm not sure how to talk to you on your side, but I don't see it. So, okay, thanks. Thanks. Working on it. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. If you can hear me, I'm working on it. This is my first one that I'm doing. Working on it. Okay. I appreciate the, I should have kept that phone a little bit closer. Let's see if I can, maybe if I exit this, saying, I guess I have to do the show. Let me go back then. Should I go back? I guess, yeah, why the hell not, right? This is just the first one. So I'm going to go back. So I'm going to share this, and then we'll go there. Hey, does that work? Does it work? Can you see the image? All right. Like I said, guys, thanks for bearing with me. I really appreciate it. So yeah, so that's the, just so you guys can get a kind of a glimpse, this is where the slides that I was sharing before, these are me performing at the restaurant, is what I was talking about before. This was me on stage in the Dominican Republic. There is me at Walt Disney World, and this was the cast that I was talking about before that you guys couldn't see, with my bowler hat there. And each, like I said, each one of us had a different character. So, and that's me on television. Cool. Awesomeness. Thanks, Diane. I really appreciate it. This is great. Great practice, right? So, but yeah, I would like to do these every week. So, guys, this is really me just getting started and figuring these things out. So, so again, just so you guys can kind of get an experience that I did put some work into these slides. I actually did this. So like we were talking about, it's not the tricks, it's really the strong character. And like I was saying, kind of now catching back up, when I went to audition at Walt Disney World, they didn't want an American performer because, again, the weakest part of John's act, and John is a fantastic, I mean, if you know John, he's just such an awesome magician, just a strong performer. And the weakest part of his act at that point was the British character. He didn't have a strong accent, strong magic, and he was there for a long time. And like I said, when I went in for the audition, one of the things that my agent at the time had told me was that before the audition happened, that they didn't want an American performer. So what I ended up doing was going out and getting a voice coach, uh, a person from England that was a voice coach, to teach me a British accent. And I needed to get an accent so strong that even a person from the town that I was pretending to be from would believe that I was an English person. And in the over 10 years that I performed at Disney using that character, because it was so strong, Disney wanted me to take that character to other places. They loved the character and people connected with it so well. I always said to them, my best magic trick was that no one knew that I wasn't from England. Everybody, even when people, my accent was a Bristolian accent, which is in the southwest of the country. It's a very unique accent. Even people from Bristol were fooled. I had, in fact, one of the only times I was called out was a family had come to see me performing one night, and the lady had grown up in Bristol, and she asked me where I had gone to elementary school, to primary school at, and I didn't have a good answer. And after the show came up, like this was, I always have banter in the show, and I kind of joked it off or something like that during the show. And she came up and she said that was the only thing that really gave it away. She said she was fooled all the way through the show, and then she told me she actually ended up giving me the primary school that she went to, so that later on in any of my other performances, I could use that to continue the ruse. But that's another thing about developing a strong character, I think, is that when you listen to uh, your audience really will guide you and tell you where your character needs to go. They're going to tell you the strong aspects, they're going to tell you the weak aspects, everything that you're going to need to know. In fact, over the years, I'll be honest with you, I would say 90%, I'll go that high to say that 90% of my show and that what my character did and how he behaved on stage was a direct result of listening to my audience. I would say 10% was really me trying to script things. Of course, I was the one who was in control of the material ultimately, but really my audiences were the ones who guided that. And listening to them, especially like after the show, getting people to come up and talk with you after your show, that's a really important thing. As a performer, one of the things when we begin, it's kind of it's really about us. It's a very big egotistical um, career choice, I think, to be a performer on one level. And it's hard once you get over that sort of hurdle of being uh, about the whole show has to be about you, and you get into really listening to what your audiences want. There's kind of three stages. There's the egotistical stage that uh, somehow it connects with us. Being a performer connects with us on a very deep level. I don't come from a performing background. My parents were not performers. No one in my immediate family were performers. I was the only one that decided to go into the performing arts. And there was something that obviously connected with me. I had my career has lasted over 20 years. So but there's the ego connection in the beginning. Then once you get over the ego connection, there's a sense of really wanting to develop your show for your audience. So it moves from being all about me to being about them, and that lasts for quite a while. And that's a good period to be in, because you really do start connecting with your audience. You start hearing what they're saying. And like I said, it guides your entire show and your entire character. But then eventually you get to a place, and I think where I'm at now, and there might be another place after this that I go in my philosophy when it comes to approaching performing, but it becomes really about creating a shared experience. And that's one of the big things that I took away from Disney and all my years there is how to create a strong, mutually shared experience. How to connect with your audience in a way where when they leave the show, they talk about you for years. I would have people come back to see me year after year after year from all over the world. And eventually, the great thing about being at Disney was that I was meeting thousands and thousands of people a week, millions of people a year were coming to my shows. And eventually, when I left Disney, I got to keep those contacts, and those took me all over the world performing for the last 10 years or so. So it was a really great experience, but learning how to develop those experiences and create a mutually beneficial one where it's not just about you, it's not just about them, but it's a shared experience where your character is really becoming involved with them and they get a sense that they know you. And I think um, that's one of the things, a great actor, when you study acting, one of the things that I did early on was to take acting classes, and I really, really uh, highly recommend any magician uh, take a year of spending what money that they would normally invest in magic tricks and magic books, to take that year and that money and invest it into acting, and to take acting and improv classes, take voice lessons, learn how to be an actor on stage, because that's really ultimately our job. So again, developing your strong character, there's a lot to it, and we can talk more about it as we go on. And each week, like I said, I want to do these things every week. I'm going to be leaving these up on YouTube, and we'll be sharing through our blog the links to the videos so that you guys can watch them and share them with your friends, and hopefully we'll learn from each other. Next time, I'll make sure that my slides are working. I really appreciate everybody that sent in messages. That was great. So good to know that other people are out there helping me along. But yeah, so and again, here's a couple of points that for talking about character, really defining who you are, getting down to the nitty gritty. Who do you want to be on stage? How do you want to communicate that to your audience? It's a really, it seems like an easy question, but I'll be honest, it took me, I would say, probably a good 2 or 3 years of performing every single day, doing, gosh, I was doing, at one time I was doing 6 shows a day when I was working at Disney, and sometimes 5 to 6 days a week. And one day I would go out and I would do, I had a restaurant in town that I would perform at. And I would really honestly believe it took me 2 or 3 years to get to the point of really knowing who that character was, because of the uniqueness, I guess, of the character, maybe, and that I was using the character so much. I needed a really deep backstory. I knew where I went to, again, like I said, I knew where I went to elementary school. I knew the street that my family had grown up on, that where I grew up. I knew local hangouts. I studied how things had transitioned in England during the time that my character supposedly lived there, so that I could talk about some of that stuff. So really getting into who you are as a character is really important, and can be a very, very deep question. And this is one of the slides I put together just so you guys could see, to look at the different characters. This is another shot. Actually, the guy there in the red bowler with the red tie is the one who took these shots. His name is Kirk Marsh. He's a wonderful photographer and a great European style clown. He works silently. And you just look at his costume and his character, and you can get a sense of his personality. The tall guy on the very right hand side of the photo there is a guy named Brian Starrin, another great, really, really funny comedy magician. Had a huge following over the years at Disney. But you can get a sense of, he's got this loud kind of coat on, it's kind of long. You get a sense of his personality, and the guy in the black and white stripe pants there, Max. He was an interesting fellow. He was originally from Russia, born in Russia, but then married a Brazilian woman during one of his tours. He's a juggler, again, kind of a European style clown, mime. Did a little bit of magic, but mainly worked silently. And then the guy in the suit with no hat on, that's a magician named Antoine. He's more of a mentalist and approaches magic from. He's funny. He has a sense of humor to him, but he's more reserved, more refined, and you can kind of tell that from his dress. And again, you see me with the bowler hat. I've got the umbrella there. That was actually a gift from my very good friend and mentor, a guy named Jack Codell. Some magicians may know who he is. He was the very first magician to do an act entirely of birds. So guys like Jason Byrne, Lance Burton, even Johnny Thompson, those guys learned a lot of their bird work from Codell. He was the first guy to do an act entirely of birds. So not the first guy to work with birds. That I believe was the Mexican magician that used to produce the birds out of the ponchos. But yeah, Jack is a great guy, and his wife Mary was his coach and director for many years. In fact, Codell often said that when he got married to her and she took over that aspect of his show, that he went from being just a magician to becoming a performer, and that was a big shift for him. And his advice was always to me, hire people, directors, coaches, because those people can see things that you can't, and they're going to help you out and be better than what you are. So that's a little bit of background, more background about that umbrella there than maybe you might wanted to know. But you can tell from my costume that, again, it was a very John Cleese type of character. I got a lot of my influence from early Monty Python, and even some Eddie Izzard. If you're familiar with Eddie Izzard, he was a really funny British comic, but it was really modeled after John Cleese. And then the guy next to me, the very, very colorful guy, very, very cool. He did a clown act. His name is Sasha. And just wonderful. That hat is actually a prop in and of itself. It opens up, and inside of it is a extendable basketball hoop. And it's just amazing the things that guy built. He's originally from Russia, performed in the Russian circus for years and years and years and years and years. He was the senior member on the team, and just what a fantastic performer. But again, the whole point of this photo is to really, look at the costuming, look at the character and the personality that the costumes emit and emote. Because when somebody comes up to your show and they see you performing, that's one of the very first things. We're very visual creatures. We have eyes in the front of our heads. We're very visual creatures, and we can see and we connect with costuming very, very quickly. So be cognizant of your dress. Be cognizant of your material. Does it really fit the character? Choose material that is going to work with your character. And again, like for me, being a John Cleese kind of character, most of my stuff was very tongue in cheek. I did a lot of really, really awful puns and um, just uh, some really great stuff. And like I said, a lot of it came out of things that the audience would shout out. When I would develop material for my character, I would just have a bare bones structure to it. I would have um, pretty much how I would get into the piece, how I would get out of the piece, and uh, I would fill in the middle just through interactions with the audience, kind of asking them questions and letting them fill in along the way. Now, again, that goes back to having a lot of training in improvisation and knowing how to handle suggestions from your audience and just being able to create a rapport, kind of breaking down that wall between you and your audience so that you're having more of a conversation, which fit my character better. So that's not necessarily going to work for everybody, that particular type of approach, but I think it works pretty well if you listen to your audience. They're going to give you lines, they're going to give you jokes, they're going to give you all sorts of material for that character. So, uh, again, not just dress, but think about, does the performance material fit your character? What do the props look like? You know, I used to do an effect that used one of those skywriters that you would spin above your head and it would say different messages. And I was just using the stock one out of, like, literally, I think I bought it at a Toys R Us or something, and was just using the stock one. And a friend of mine, another professional magician, came up to me and said, "Hey, you know, you really need to think about dressing that prop up because it doesn't fit the rest of your character. Your character's, it has a refined look, but even though it's silly, it has a very refined look. But that prop just looks plastic and cheap, and the rest of your character doesn't." And that was like, and I had done probably hundreds of performances at that point with that props, and that was the first time anyone had said anything to me about it. And that night, I went into my workshop and I fixed that prop and I changed it so that it would fit my character more. So think about that. Your material is really important. And the cool thing that I found about developing a strong character is once you get that character, once you really develop it strongly, your material follows. Right? You're really able. Sometimes you can't see your own stuff. Like I said, with that one prop, I didn't really see what was going on there, but you get a sense of what material actually works for your character. And it makes buying magic so much simpler. Before I became a full-time performer, I did magic as a hobby, and you know, kind of semi. I won't even say semi-pro. I did a part-time, a gig every other month or something like that, and I would just buy magic like it was going out of style. I mean, I would spend almost my entire paycheck. I would cover the bare minimums that I needed to live. The entire rest of my paychecks were all going to buying magic. And I think that's how magicians really accrue so much, let's be honest, crap that just sits in drawers and we never perform because we don't know what our character is and what our character is saying to our audiences. And when you discover that, when you really dig deep into that character, the material that you buy and the material that you're going to choose, it chooses itself, really, ultimately. Towards the end of my Disney career, towards the end of doing contracts with Disney, uh, I could walk into a magic shop or go online and look through a catalog of magic, and instantly I could just read a description and go, no, that's not going to fit my character, or yes, that would fit my character. It makes buying magic really, really easy, and you get to see a lot more personality in the effects where you can start moving away from the scripted effect that the originator had in mind, and you can start developing the material to fit your character even more. So keep that in mind. And the other thing, like I was talking before, does it fit your audience? And again, this is a really big key. I'll go back to when I was performing at the pub in Epcot, doing the English character, where the English character got its start. Um, Little tiny things, like one of my favorite effects, and a lot of magicians, I don't know if they'll give me flack for this, but there's a little effect called Color Monty. It's an Emerson and West packet trick, and uh, it's it's been one of my favorite effects for so many years. I love that little packet trick. It's got such a great hook. The story is so fantastic, but the issue with that effect, and some of you already know this, that the payoff, the big reveal, the money card has an American dollar sign on it, and for a an experience like Disney was trying to create in the UK pavilion, we wouldn't use, a character there wouldn't use dollars. Obviously, the guests would use dollars because of, commerce, but the characters, we were living in that fantasy world. And so I had to go out and find, and thank goodness they make them, but they make that effect with the pound symbol, specifically for the English market, which was really great. And little things like that that you might not think about, but are really important, that can add to the character or they can take away from the character depending upon what it is. And thinking about what is it that your audience is expecting. Our audiences there at Disney, when they would come into that park, they're suspending their disbelief that any of this, they're kind of buying into that illusion that that's a real thing. I think maybe on some level, they know that it's a performance, but especially the children, and there were, like I said, a lot of adults would buy into the illusion that we were creating and really wanted to participate in it. And anything that takes away from that takes away from the entire illusion. So be very cognizant about where your audience is. Where are they coming to see? What kind of people are they? And that's going to help you determine, the character that you perform as. I've performed with a lot of stage performers. I won't name any names, but I've performed with a lot of stage performers that have been on television, are well, maybe not household names, but among magicians, they're definitely household names. And their personalities, their characters that they would perform with on stage worked great for like 5,000 people. But when you got them into a smaller venue, like a lot of times, and if some of you guys haven't worked conventions, a lot of times, not only will they ask you to perform on stage and you'll do like a keynote, but the day before you may be asked to perform at a cocktail party, and this gives you the opportunity, or even like the VIP suites, you get asked to perform in the VIP suites. It just gives you a chance to connect a little bit more with the audience and the group of people that you're there with. And there's really great things, but a lot of times these stage magicians, their characters only fit the stage, and they couldn't translate into working for a smaller group of people. Like there was just no way for them to have a sit down conversation with two people, share something with them. They had to work the entire room all at the same time. They would do 10 to 15 minutes and then they were done. Whereas a close up performer, which is where I got my start, and I'm not saying that I'm any better than them because obviously my character had to shift if I was working on stage or on television. But starting out as a close-up performer, I was able to have a rapport, and I realized the difference between working in small groups and working on stage. And then taking those two experiences and transitioning that to being able to work on television, which is a whole different animal altogether. Very, very difficult initially to learn how to perform on TV, but learn your audience, know who your audience is and why they're there. It's a really important aspect of developing your character. So just a few things to keep in mind. So I think we're right nearing the 40-minute mark. So I'm so glad you guys joined me. I think I'm going to probably only, I might take some questions. If anybody's got some questions, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here in a minute. But we won't take this too much longer. I won't keep you guys on here. But each week, like I said, I want to do this every single week. I want to get better at this. I love sharing information with the community and my experiences. So go to my website. It's theversatileperformer.com. You're going to see, we're going to be, you'll see a link for a webinar tonight. You'll see the blog. We're just really getting things started. It's my friend Josh. He's helping me out with this. So sign up for my email. Send me a message there. Let me know what you thought. Follow me on Twitter. If some of you guys came in through the Full Circle Magic group on Facebook, friend me and send me a message there, or follow me on Google Plus. Just get in touch. Let me know what you thought, minus the technical difficulties, and let me know what you guys want to talk about. If you guys have any questions, I'd be really happy to talk about them in upcoming webinars, and I really want to continue doing this. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to see what we've got going on. Have a few people still with me. I'm going to stop screen sharing. I'm going to close that down. I'm going to bring that back up so I can see everything. And let me see if you guys, are there any questions? Do we have anybody? How do I ask? How do I even? There's my Q&A. If anybody's got some questions, what do we got here? But I'm enjoying listening. Thanks, Jason Simmons. I really appreciate that. I'm so glad. Sorry about the issue with the slides there, but yeah. What do you recommend for having a character with close-up magic? For example, when performing in restaurants, I focus more on the hospitality sides of things, less on the character. When I do my stand-up show, I'm better able to share a character perspective. Yeah, exactly. That's an interesting thing. And for me, when I was performing at Disney, again, it's kind of a unique situation, but that character, it was so strong, and I was so comfortable in that character that it ended up carrying over when I performed down in Orlando. I would do a lot of restaurants. I was part of Kostya Kinlett's group down there, and that character was so strong and it connected so strongly with me that I just carried it over. I like the idea of having a character for close-up magic, and one of the reasons I like it is because I'm naturally an introvert, and being an introvert, I take things kind of personal when I probably shouldn't take them so personal. I'm very shy. So I overcompensate by going out on stage in front of thousands of people and performing. But having a character close up, at least in my mind, knowing that it wasn't me, that it was my character that was doing this magic, was a nice thing for me to have as kind of a buffer so that I could actually approach people. I think it's a good thing to have, and I think some people's personalities, when we perform, it's a natural sort of caricature. Like if you think of a caricature artist that you would see out of a theme park or something like that, they do an exaggerated version of the person, right? And I think that's really what a close-up character can be. You're a little bit louder, a little bit more, I'll use the word flamboyant. The person who came to mind there was Chad Long. If you guys know Chad, he's a really awesome guy. I love Chad to death. Great friend. But Chad's performing character is kind of flamboyant. It's bigger. It's a little bit more boisterous, and that's not necessarily how he is in his personal life. So that character, it is a character. It's a caricature. But yeah, I think, for a lot of guys, we think that performing close up, performing at a restaurant, that you don't need a character. But I do think that the natural tendency is that we become a caricature of ourselves. We get a little bit louder, a little bit more, have larger gestures. Um, Maybe we become wittier, maybe a little bit more fun to hang around. I don't know. Um, but for me, having that character as the buffer between me and the audience, just because of my natural introversion, um, I'm not the type of person that can just walk up to a group of people and start talking to them. It's not a natural behavior for me. I'm the guy that sits in the corner of the room, and nobody knows when he came in, and nobody knows that he was there. Nobody knows when he's gone. That's my type of personality, unless I'm working. And again, then I'm able to turn that caricature of myself on to become a little bit more boisterous. And the interesting thing that I will say is, over the years of performing, and there's a great Chinese saying that is about developing characteristics that you want, right? So you basically pretend that you have the characteristics that you want, and eventually, if you pretend long enough, you'll eventually develop those characteristics. And one of the things that I know just personally, magic and having these characters has helped is reduce my social anxiety with introversion. I'm able to, walk up to people now, and I go to networking events, and if I'm working a corporate event or something like that, I have a much easier time, even outside of having to perform or being a performer. I can just talk to people now much, much easier. So, yeah, so I hope that answers the question. But yeah, the character, I do think that we develop them over time. I think, again, listening to your audiences, they're going to let you know what they like, what they don't like. And think about, again, close-up performing. Even your dress is part of your character, because that's really, I mean, you're putting on, maybe you wear a suit, or maybe if you're working family nights at restaurants, something like that. Maybe you're, a loud sequined vest, or those pieces are part of a character. Even if you don't think that your personality is a character, those pieces are part of the character. So, be cognizant of those aspects, and think about one of the things, that um, especially when I was working down in Orlando and we were setting up, I helped Kostya Kimlet, if you guys know Kostya, I helped him set up the Sea Live Magic community, and we were hiring magicians to go into restaurants all over the country. And we were having seminars where we would bring people in, and we would teach them our approach to performing and to these types of questions and things. And one of the big things that we noticed was dress. And we noticed, again, like I was saying earlier, props. And how do your props look? Because your props are extensions of your character. Your dress is an extension of your character. One of the big tips I'll give you guys, since you asked about performing close up, and if you're working in restaurants, don't wear cologne. That's most of the time we have this kind of idea that we need to wear cologne to make ourselves smell good, but a restaurant is trying to create an experience, and that experience is around their food. And the smell of the food has a lot to do with how it tastes, right? We all know that. So if we're walking in wearing really strong cologne, it messes with the taste of that food. And over the years, that's one of the things, one of the little tidbits that we picked up was that, hey, don't put on cologne, even though it might work with your character. You think that your character needs to smell a certain way. If you're working restaurants, don't do that. It's not a good idea. It really messes with the experience that the restaurant is creating for their guests, and that's ultimately why you're there. I'm glad that you said that you really do focus on the hospitality, because I think that's a really key aspect that a lot of, especially restaurant performers, that we miss, is that, again, like I said, it's an ego thing when we first get into it. It's like me, look at my magic, look at what I can do. And we forget that there's other people in the world besides us that are witnessing this, and they're being assaulted. I'll use that word, assaulted. So, you know, uh, the character, I guess my whole point to this, I tend to be verbose, as my friend Diane says. Um, think about all of the aspects that your character is being communicated through. Your dress, your props. Are you walking in with 30 cards? I used to perform with just a little cardboard box. Literally, it was a cardboard box that I would buy from Michael's. Um, and those boxes, I would buy every single one. I would walk into Michael's and I would buy every single one that they had in the size that I needed, because they would only last a couple of performances and they would start wearing, they'd start looking worn. And, even a cardboard box, something as inconsequential as a cardboard box, especially in an environment where it's close up, that's saying something about your character, right? So there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot to it. But I think having a character close up is a really good idea. And and obviously on stage, I think that's even more so, because again, we just have to be bigger. It's like I think it was Thurston, right, that used to talk about talking to the person in the very back of the theater. So you have to not only have a voice that can project so that they can hear you, but you have to have a character that's going to communicate to them all the way in the back of the audience. A great book, actually, that just came to mind. If you guys haven't read it, it's Steve Martin's Born to Perform. It's a hell of a book, great biography of his, about his career starting out doing magic. Like, that's what he started out doing. He was a magician, got to write for the Smothers Brothers, and then eventually, he's on stage at, in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and in his mind he's thinking, like, how does the person that's all the way back there, how are they connecting with me? They can't even see me. So having ideas like that, thinking about your character in much more detail than maybe sometimes that we do. One of the things I would definitely suggest is picking up some books on acting, because they really go into detail talking about your internal dialogues, how that affects your external dialogues, how that affects your actions, and what actions you should be taking, what actions you shouldn't be taking. Really what magicians need to be learning. Like, we need to learn tricks. Obviously, that's what gets us interested in magic. But I tell you what, really learning about acting gives you so much more than what any magic book. There's a couple of magic books. I shouldn't generalize and say not all magic books are like that. Tamarez's 5 Points of Magic is absolutely phenomenal. A friend of mine, a few years ago, we took an entire year to go through that book, each chapter, and apply each lesson. And I really believe that helped my magic become stronger. Like I said, get a director, get an acting coach, get a voice coach. These people are going to see things in your performances, And like I said, go over one of the things that we're going to be doing with the Versatile Performer is talking a lot about this. We're focused on magicians because we love magicians, but we really want to be talking about all the other types of performances that are out there that we can borrow from, and that can really create much more of a deep connection with our audiences. So cool. If anybody has any more questions, just pop them over there into the chat box. I think we're going to hang out for a couple of more minutes. Yeah, it's 7:53 now. Like I said, I do tend to get wordy. So yeah, connect with me, guys. Go over to our website, share it. If you like this, put comments below. Obviously, I really do apologize for the technical difficulties. I'm learning as I go along. This is all kind of new to me, but I'm really excited about doing it, and I'm really excited about bringing some of my experiences to the community. So if you guys like it, post in the comments. Tell me what you didn't like. tell me what you'd like to talk about maybe next time. And again, this is a public hangout, so I didn't really want to go into talking really about the secrets of magic. But if that's something that you guys want to talk about, um, I, do sleight of hand magic, built my own props. So if we want to talk real specifics, we can do an unlisted hangout maybe next time and do a much more closed session, maybe a few people at a time. But again, go over to my website, theversatileperformer.com, and sign up for my email. I'm going to be sending out like really cool stuff there. I'm going to be putting up a lot of content onto the blogs talking about this stuff, so you definitely want to connect with me. And follow me on Twitter. I'll follow you back. Friend me on Facebook. I'll friend you back. I definitely just want to reconnect. I've been traveling and performing and just having an adventurous lifestyle for the last 20 years, and I want to share all of that with the community. So thank you guys so much for being a part of this. I really appreciate it. I will see you next time. Peace.